What's up, everybody? It's the Digital World Podcast, and today we have a lot to talk about, but I'm gonna go ahead and show you um, a big picture idea of everything, because sometimes it's important to know the details, but also you can't miss the forest for the trees. And here, especially with the markets, we get so focused on the narrative and what's happening in the now, as opposed to zooming out and seeing it for what it really is on a bigger frame. Okay, so here we have Michael Arrington posted a picture with Brad Garlinghouse and the CEO of Algorand, and we see here these two gentlemen. I do believe they both work for Algorand. Now, there's no coincidences that these people are hanging out. There's always some connection behind it. And Michael Arrington just recently launched his second fund, $100 million into the Arrington Algo Growth Fund. And I think that comes up to $600 million in total that he's invested into it. Now, that's interesting because Algorand has some ties to the Fed. And it is believed that they might be a part of this new financial system that's being created. And so Algorand, you can't keep your eyes off of them, because if they're with Brad Garlinghouse, there are some ties and connections there. And I tweeted this. I said it's interesting how he was just hanging out with Brad Garlinghouse and these two guys from Algorand. Okay, so now this brings me to my next point, because we know that XRP and the XRP ledger is going to have significant use cases, and we do believe that all the money is going to run through the ledger. However, there has to be there's a seismic shift that's happening right now that's underfoot. People don't see it, but I've always said on this channel, by the time people realize what's happening, it's going to be too late, and it would have already taken place. Okay, and now that you're here and you're watching this, you're positioning yourself to take advantage of that opportunity. However, that doesn't mean that there won't be any bumps on the road. We're seeing those bumps currently take place right now, and we see with inflation what's happening with the prices of commodities, with food, everything. Listen to what Mike Maloney has to say.
Transitory in the short term. I think that this is probably correct. We're experiencing some very severe inflation right now in portions of the retail sector. We've seen huge inflation in the asset markets. There's a chart that I came across that's on Wolf Street, and it's used vehicle value index. And since since the March crash of 2020, this has just gone totally insane. So used cars are going up in value at quite a rate. Now, I also went to several of the big mainland banks, Bank of America, Wells, Citi, and such, and I took a look at what the interest rates are that they're offering on savings accounts, and typically it's 0.01 to 0.05%. That's the savings rate.
That's a joke. People don't. It's no longer about if you save, you're going to be better off, because you're losing money, especially with the rate of inflation and with all this money printing. Your savers are losers, and Robert Kiyosaki talks about this all the time, and he says it plain and clear: savers are losers. And so that's why people are looking to invest and put their money somewhere where they can make more money. But you got to be smart about where you put your money. Put in something that has utility, something that makes sense, that has fundamentals. And you'll see here why you invest into XRP and why the fundamentals are brought to light, and it makes sense. Now, another thing by Mike Maloney, and I thought this was a very straightforward answer, is, a reporter asked this politician, or I believe, or maybe not a politician, maybe, I'm not entirely sure, to be honest, but he asked him, where are they getting all this money? And look at what he answers.
And the funds for this lottery program, is this coming directly from the province, or is this from other Manitoba lottery funds that are already in the system? Where are the funds for these $2 million coming from?
Your 2-year-old. We're borrowing money to try to get out of this pandemic. We just announced the largest deficit in Manitoba history here a few weeks ago.
And there you have it. And didn't our founding fathers say that the quickest way to enslave a nation is through debt? And I don't recall, it was one of the, I don't know if it was John Adams or Thomas Jefferson, it was one of those. But that's one of the things in which this system that we're in, it's enslavement. This debt is enslavement. And he's literally telling you, it's your 2-year-old they're the ones who are going to be debt slaves. And so there's got to be a pay the piper moment that comes. Moving on here, see Peter Schiff talks about inflation. The inflation deniers who are convinced that huge price increases are transitory assume that all the deficit spending and money printing, as well as the lack of domestic production, have no permanent effect on prices. If so, why not print even more money so everyone can be rich? He makes a good point here. And we see here, XRP Darren said, Tim Lane from the BOC says it's transitory due to commodity prices increasing. And he asked, didn't the 2008 financial crisis start with commodity prices increasing? Okay, you look back on history. If you don't learn from previous mistakes in history, you're bound to repeat them again. Okay, now moving on, another thing that we're seeing is shortages. We're seeing shortages on on food, on everything. Here at Sonic, someone posted, due to nationwide supply issues, some of your favorite items or ingredients may not be available. Also at Starbucks, there's been signs that say the same thing. And little by little, you can start seeing this everywhere. And what happens when there's a food shortage? What happens? There's this quote that goes, there is between 9 meals between anarchy and a civilized society. That means that there's approximately 3 days before people who are going hungry start a revolt, and that has such truth to it. And if you look at, I know in one of Mike Maloney's videos they were talking about this. They said that based on the supply chain and how it all works out together, and it's actually in his last video, it's called Hook, Line, and Sinker, that based on the supply chain, there's about 48 hours between people realizing that there's no more food coming in. And I'd highly recommend watching that video if you have it. But it's true, without food, it doesn't matter. And one thing I always talk about, and it's not financial advice, but everyone has their own plan. What happens when money doesn't work, or where there's a pay the piper moment, right? That's why you want to be invested in digital assets, because they're here to stay. But when you have profits, you take those profits and you use those and allocate them to spread it out across your portfolio. And that's a very important thing. And again, everyone has a different plan and your own beliefs on how you want to carry on with your finances. But one thing I've always said is, if you can use that money that you have invested, take some profits and put it into something more tangible, so you're more well-rounded, that'd be the best. Because if something comes and let's say you needed a place to be at or food to grow, at least you can have a piece of land that you can buy. And these are all things that you have to think about. And so you want to be self-sufficient in a way where you can revert to plan B, plan C, and so forth and so on. Next up is here we have cyber attacks, breaches, data breaches. This is something that's been occurring. It's a reoccurring narrative the past year. I mean, it's been happening for a while, but ever since Klaus Schwab talked about a global cyber attack, we've seen this narrative continue and continue. So we see everything happening. Now, this world and these politicians and the powers that be run on problem, reaction, solution. And we see the problems, we see the reactions, But what happens when we need a solution? Like if we keep this current monetary and fiscal policy up, like I say, there will be a pay the piper moment. So here, Jeannie posted on the BIS.org website, there's a PDF, and it was directed to the Secretary General of the Basel Committee on Banking Supervision, and exactly how Ripple can drastically improve the global banking system. And here you can see it. That's to the Basel Committee on Banking Supervision. And here, we're going to go through this real quick. It says, the ledger is decentralized, open source, and based on cryptography, okay? Key characteristics of XRP include speed, scalability, energy efficiency, and cost, okay? We know it's fast, 3 to 4 seconds for settlement. Scalability, it can scale for all the money. Energy efficiency, it's, I believe, 57,000 times more efficient than Bitcoin. Cost, cheap. And here we see crypto assets specifically designed for payments, like XRP, have potential to reduce limitations, right, in payments without the need of the nostril accounts, which has a minimum of $10 trillion in it, and I believe it goes can be as high as 20 or has been as high as 27 trillion. Now, the Ripple software leverages XRP as a bridge between currencies. This allows financial institutions to access liquidity on demand through digital asset exchanges. And remember, I've shown this clip several times where Chris Larson is being interviewed, and he says we see crypto as being a bridge or supplemental to all these currencies around the world, like the dollar, like the main currencies, the euro. They're not going to compete with them, and if anything, it will make them stronger. So here it says it's going to serve as a bridge between currencies. Now we see here the key benefit of XRP is that it follows or it allows financial institutions to settle cross-border transactions globally on a real-time basis at a fraction of a cost. And financial institutions can access liquidity on demand. We believe the usage and utility of crypto assets like XRP have the ability to create reliable, instant, and lower cost cross-border payments experience. There you have it. We see the utility. And who was it directed to? The Basel Committee on Banking Supervision. Okay, and here it outlined the fundamentals, the use cases for this. Moving on, we see now Texas banks will soon hold your crypto in custody for you. It says authority of Texas state chartered banks to provide virtual currency custody service to customers. So we see the ball rolling. Now, I do believe that this we're entering a very interesting period in this space, and there's a lot of regulations going to come, and when they come, only a few will survive. Okay, and I mentioned make sure it has utility and fundamentals backing it, because if it does, then you shouldn't worry, you'll be fine. Now listen to what Gary Gensler has to say.
Of trends in the crypto exchange world. One is likely consolidation. There's about 200 exchanges. At some point, this will shake out and there'll be fewer. Two, I think some that are offering securities like tokens that are registered with the SEC, those exchanges will register as broker-dealers under Regulation Alternative Trading System here in the U.S., or Reg ATS. And that will be in the next 6 to 18 months. But the more uncertain piece is, what about those exchanges that are just offering exchange for Bitcoin or Ethereum? And that will be more interesting to watch. I think the Intercontinental Exchange will have a big influence as they get into this business. And if others start to get in a regulated way, I think a lot of business might move to the markets where there's greater confidence, more price transparency, more customer assurance that they're not just getting picked off by manipulation.
And there you have it. So thanks to Digital Asset Investor for posting this. Now, I'm in complete agreement with what Blockchain Backer has to say. He says, I finally got to looking at the charts. And if you haven't seen his last video, I'd highly recommend it. He said, I finally got to looking at the charts this evening. Times like right now are always tough, every single time. But I'm very excited for the future. And I'm thankful we don't have the sky is falling narrative. We'll get through this moment as we always have before. And the XRP researcher says, sky is the sky is falling is coming very soon. But yeah, there might be another bear market after this. We'll see. And he says, I'm a hodler. I've hodled through some seriously jacked up stuff nightmares are made of. Think I can't hodl through this? And hey, these are the tough moments. Hodling is never easy. It's tough. It's not as easy as it's made to seem. But you can do this, and at the end of it, you will be rewarded. Okay? So have your financial plan, have an idea of what you want to do. And remember, as long as fundamentals and utility are backing you, that's all you need. Like Glenn Hutchison said, like the value is in the protocol. If you know the protocol has value and you see that it can be used in real life scenarios, then you're good. I hope this episode has brought you some value. Like and subscribe, comment below. What are your thoughts? Like always, I like hearing from you. This is a Digital World Podcast, and I'll see you in the next episode.